Welcome to the Biscuits and Blurays Podcast, where we watch Blu-rays and take the biscuit. I'm your host, James, and I'm joined this week by Ella from Into The Funkoverse. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is the crossover we always talked about, isn't it?
Yeah. I've always wanted to be part of the podcast, and starting my podcast up again, I'm like, James, we need to do an episode.
Tell us a little bit, well, I'll say us, the listeners to this one, about your podcast, Into The Funkoverse.
So Into the Funkoverse there's 3 seasons now, and the first 2 seasons, me and a co-host, we talked about Funkos, and we used to get people's opinions about different topics on Funkos. Afraid that my co-host now has left the podcast, so now I'm taking that on, but not only talking about Funkos, but now talking more about Marvel. And I just had a recent episode about Across the Spider-Verse, so just kind of all Marvel, all Funko, just nerdy things, just talking about it and getting other people's opinions, because we love to get the goss about what people think.
We're a nerdy bunch, us. Like, we found a crew and we've sort of like stuck to it.
Exactly.
But for you, this episode, well, I wanted you on the podcast since we've had a similar situation with co-hosts. But I wanted you to talk about this film in particular, which is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Why did you pick this film?
Oh, this is when it like turns into like a whole like hour-long episode. No, I think Into the Spider-Verse, it means so much to me, because obviously being a massive Spider-Man fan, you know, I love all the live actions. Everyone loves the live actions, but this just takes it a step further. And having Miles Morales, and I read all the comics, I love him in the comics, and I really connect to him in a sense that I feel like we're the same.
Mm-hmm.
So this movie means a lot to me, as it's something that I can watch over and over again, and still find new things about it. And just the animated style, the visuals, just everything. There's so much to talk about and so much to love about this film, that like, why not?
You say you identify with Miles, but what is it in particular? Because this was my first like meeting with Miles, if you were to put it in a very special way. I wasn't aware of his comic book run. Maybe the video game helped as well, that he sort of been brought to the masses. But this one took the world by storm, and it still is. But what is it about Miles for you that you go, okay, this is my guy?
So before the movie came out, I heard of him. I knew of him. He was in the comics and some of them that I read, and I didn't understand much about him. And then, you know, when the movie came out, I was like, okay, what, you know, how's this gonna kind of be? And I watched it and I was blown away. And I think for me, it's the fact that he is a bit of an outsider. He's a bit of a weirdo, and I feel like I am as well. And I feel like he's pressured into a lot of things. And I'm not saying that I'm pressured into a lot of things, but I think some of the situations that he goes through, I connect to. Obviously, I think him discovering that he's Spider-Man, him having someone higher up to kind of mentor him. Mm-hmm. I just feel like I've had that, and I don't know, it's just how he has taken on his role of Spider-Man and how he is as a character. He's quite funny, he's chill, and I think I'm like, yeah, that's me, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely get it. The thing about this film is, and it establishes it quite early on, is that anyone can wear the mask.
Yeah,
that is the beauty of Spider-Man for me. It could be anyone, and the film, I'd say more the sequel leans into that quite a little bit, because there's obviously so many different ones. This one still feels small in comparison to the new one.
Yeah.
Let's go off on a tangent and just say, like, the new one's great, right?
Yeah.
Really great. But when this one came out, did you catch this at the cinema?
Yes, I did.
Because everyone I've spoke to, they've gone, oh, I missed it in the cinema. I missed Into the Spider-Verse, the first one, because it was animated. Do you feel like an animated Spider-Man film works better, or can do different things that a live action one probably can't?
In my opinion, I think it's better, because they can do it in a comic style. They can add so much to it, like a live action, but also add so much more. And I think I was a bit skeptical of it being an animated one. I was like, oh, is it going to be quite childish? Is it? But the visuals and how they have been able to construct it, I think it's better than live action.
Mhm.
100%. And people talk about a live action Miles Morales, and I'm like, yeah, but animated is better.
Well, that's similar to the Disney remake stuff. It's like you can't top it, so there's no point in even trying, I don't think.
Yeah, I just think they can bring a good comic style, which is what Marvel is based off of.
Yeah.
They can bring that into this movie, and especially for Miles, because he fits that role. He fits that role of he's a different Spider-Man. He's not Peter Parker.
Mhm.
So having that different style and him not being live action just brings that more into his character, I think.
I do think as well that a lot of people would have been put off by the Sony Pictures logo coming up. Well,
Yeah.
Sony animation thing, because their film prior to this, I think, was the Emoji Movie. This is from the same, right? I don't understand how a company's gone, okay, you can have this, but also this. Wonderful.
I didn't know the Emoji Movie came out before.
I think it was. Yeah,
That's so funny.
I could be wrong, but it's also the same studio that brought us Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, which Phil Lord and Chris Miller, I hope I've got those names the right way round, had input in. Again, the cartoonish nature of this one, it just leaps off the screen from the very first
Oh
frame.
yeah. The leap of faith. That I think that is one of the best cinematic experience and just part of a movie that will always blow me away. I mean, I've even got it tattooed on me.
You do, I can see it. Oh my gosh. I also have a Spider-Man tattoo. It's not as cool as yours, but there we go. Spider-Man's just so cool.
Yeah, I think animated, I think yeah, a lot of people were skeptical and even I was, but I managed to watch it in cinema and I think the animation style of it brings more to the movie.
Well, there's not just one style on show. I think that's the key thing here. Every Spider-Man brings a sort of different animation style or a different look, particularly with the gang we've got here, because Miles isn't alone in this. He does have
Nope.
a crew looking after him. But when this film starts, we do have a Peter Parker, and it's still Peter Parker. He's still doing his daily stuff. But I think this is the first time I've ever seen a Spider-Man die.
Yes, and that's pretty shocking. And obviously now watching the second film,
Yeah.
I think it hits harder. Obviously, I don't want to give much away, but yeah, I thought, wow, Spider-Man's actually been defeated. This is time for Miles to step up. But I think there's a whole deeper thing to that, and I think that's what's quite shocking.
Miles is trying to like find his. Does he quite fit in at the start of this? I don't think he does. I think he's going to
Well,
college.
yeah, because he had, I think he was in a public school. I don't know, it's American, isn't it? And then
Yeah,
he
yeah.
went to a very, I would say, posh private school to do higher education, I'd say.
Because
Um,
he's smart. Like every
he is.
Spider-Man, he is a genius. But it takes a while for Miles to really get his powers under control. Yeah, he's bitten by a spider. One of my favorite jokes in this is the fact that in the other Spider-Man medias that we have, the spider bite is such a big deal. There's so much attention drawn to it, and Miles just like a normal human being just taps it away.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
When things start changing, we do get a lot of cartoony, well, I say cartoony, comic book looking speech bubbles, thought bubbles, things like that.
Yeah,
That's very old school. What do you make of it?
I think it's good.
Mhm.
I love it because, like I said kind of earlier, it's great to see them put the comic style into this, and I think using the speech bubbles, it just brings that more to life. It's basically bringing a comic to life.
Mhm.
So having those speech bubbles is just more of like a comic nerd, you're like internally screaming.
Mhm. I do like that this film starts with the stamp, the comic
Yeah.
association of whatever, because a lot of love and care has been taken to make this happen, obviously.
Oh yeah.
In terms of villains, we do have a few. Kingpin is the main antagonist, I'd say.
Yeah.
Kingpin for you, is he a decent villain?
I think he is, but it depends. It depends. In the comics, yes, definitely.
Right.
I think he's a great one. I think he's very powerful. I think I wouldn't say he's my favorite, but I think he's a good villain. Then you look at Daredevil. He was really good in Daredevil. Then they obviously brought him into Hawkeye, and I was very disappointed to how they brought him into Hawkeye because no offense to Kate Bishop, I love her,
Uh-huh.
but he would have ruined her in one smash. Like Kate
Choose your wording
cannot.
correctly, please.
Yeah. Kate definitely would not have been able to take on Kingpin, you
Right,
know.
yeah.
And you look at the game of Spider-Man, the PS4, 5 Spider-Man,
Mhm.
he's very he's a powerful character, and I think that was brought into the Spider-Verse very well.
Well, in this one, he's absolutely huge. I think there's a shot in the film where he just takes up the entire screen. That's how big
Yeah.
he's a presence, not over the city, but just in general. I think he's just massive. He's a big boy.
Yeah.
Speaking of Hawkeye, though, there's a small connection here to Hawkeye and Into the Spider-Verse in a certain actress. Haley Steinfeld's Gwen Stacy in this, and she rocks up quite early on, and she's like Gwanda and stuff.
Yeah.
I've seen Haley Steinfeld like from True Grit. That was my first introduction to her, and she's
Yeah.
gone on to much bigger, better things. And the voice cast here as well is quite diverse. Anyway, do you think that the voice cast really helps elevate this, or do you think it could have been anyone?
Oh, I think the voice cast definitely the people they casted for this film definitely helped elevate this, this movie a lot more. I want to say Nick Miller then. What's he called?
Jake Johnson, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. He does so good as a Peter B. Parker, and he reminds me of Nick Miller from New Girl, and I think that kind of connection, like he's done such a good job to play Peter B. Parker in that character. Same with Shamik Moore. He did so good as Miles and Haley as Gwen. I think not anyone could have done this, and I cannot imagine anyone else playing their roles. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's wrong. I think who they chose and who they cast for this movie was spot on for each of their characters.
Absolutely. As Miles sort of learns to like, he's the only Spider-Man left after Kingpin does a smash. Like anyone can wear the suit. He feels this sort of responsibility on him, but he doesn't quite know what to do with it. This is where we meet Peter B. Parker. I nearly said Nick Miller as well. Jake Johnson. In the new one, he's got a few other like teachers, I want to say,
Yeah.
but it's mostly in this one. It's mostly Peter B. Parker. How do you think those two interact together?
I think it's great because obviously we find out that Peter B. Parker, he's not with MJ anymore because he didn't want kids. He
Yeah,
doesn't like kids. He don't want them. And now he's stuck with a kid. To be able to get home, he needs to rely on this kid in a sense, or train this kid. But he's just not bothered either because he's like, I don't like kids. Why am I, so he's quite, Miles really wants someone to look up to. And I think Peter B. Parker, even though it's probably not ideal, I think he definitely rolled into that position.
mm-hmm.
And obviously it left to further things for the next movie. But I think that dynamic was really good, and how secretly, and maybe not so secretly at the end, that Peter B. Parker did care about Miles a lot and wants to
Yeah,
see him grow up. And obviously I think he then changed his opinion about kids, and it was
yeah.
great to see that.
It was. I think it get mentioned in Across the Spider-Verse, where it's like I wanted kids. Like since meeting you, I wanted a kid like you. Everyone's got a story arc here.
Yeah.
It's really wonderful. But the main focus is Miles, who after seeing this big like collider experiment like go wrong and whatever. That's what Kingpin's after. You don't really learn Kingpin's plan, but everyone else gets sucked into this big into Miles's world. But New York, it's a great setting for a Spider-Man. It always is. But they animate it so beautifully here. How do you think this would have looked if it was more just generic, if it had gone more to, if boundaries weren't pushed as much? Do you think this would have been as good a film, or do you think people would have still appreciated it.
I think that when it comes to New York and the surrounding environments, I'm glad that they push themselves to the limit and everything with the animation and how it looks, because if it was more generic, I don't think it would give the same effect, because not only are the characters important, but the environment that surrounds them is also just as important, and it relates to each of the character. And I know that in Across the Spider-Verse we obviously see more of other people's, other Spidey's worlds, so making sure that Miles's world and New York was so detailed brings more to the movie and the character. I think they needed that there, else I do think if it was more 2D or more a casual scenery of New York, it wouldn't have worked well.
I remember I worked at the cinema when this came out, and we had a few people come out and complain and say the screen's blurry. This is a problem, and then we'd be like, no, it's supposed to be. It focuses on different things. It's all on purpose. Don't worry. Go back in, enjoy it. But it was always a big issue when I worked there when this came out. Did you struggle with it at all?
I don't know. I think when I watched it, I think, you're like, oh, that's a bit blurry, but I think it adds to the effect. I think all of it it's more for the effect of it. It's not, you can't expect everything to be crisp. You can't expect everything to be all in focus. And I think, me studying photography and videography, I love to see that. I'm like, yeah, these aspects are not they're blurry, but that gives it more of an attention to something else, but then it gives it more of an effect. I think it's all of the effects that just kind of make it up, and it may be a bit distressing for some people. I know some people find it weird and there's so much happening on a screen, but for me, I think it makes it more effective.
In terms of villains, we've got a handful. We've already talked about Kingpin. We didn't talk about the Green Goblin that rocked up at the start as well. But there's a few more on show. Spider-Man movies these days have to have a lot of villains to be sort of entertaining. But do you agree? Do you think too many villains spoil the broth, or do you like a more grounded 1v1 sort of story? Like similar to the first Raimi Spider-Man, for instance.
I think it depends, because obviously we know there's a lot of Spider-Man villains, but it depends on the film. Like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, well, having a focus on Green Goblin, it helped having a focus on Sandman and Venom, and then on to the Amazing Spider-Man having Electro, and I can't think of the first villain in the first movie. Lizard. And so with Tom's Spider-Man, it brings the villains together and it works well as a solo. But I think when it comes to the Spider-Verse, because it's the Spider-Verse, it works to have a lot. And I know in No Way Home they had more than one villain, but yet again, it's crossing that whole Spider-Verse dimension, multiverse kind of thing, that it then works. I think if you have more spider people, then you kind of need more villains. And I think including more villains makes it a bit more interesting, because not all the villains get along together. And we see that in No Way Home with Doc Ock and Electro. And so I think there's a good dynamic with having a lot of villains, but then you don't want to add too much that then it's kind of all over the place. I'm trying to think of how many villains there were in Into Spider-Verse. You had obviously...
I want to say 4.
Yeah, we had Kingpin, Green Goblin, Doc Ock.
Maybe just 3 then.
We had Tombstone. I think it was Tombstone.
Oh, Tombstone. Yeah, he's there for a bit.
And Prowler.
Oh, God. Yeah,
we had Prowler. I'm trying to think who else we had. Scorpion.
Almost the Sinister Six film, right?
Yeah.
We're so close.
Yeah. But that was good because there was also a few spider people. So it kind of evened it out. Everyone was kind of fighting their own battle, which kind of singled out, Gwen's fighting so-and-so, so that's kind of their individual thing, and then so on. So I think it kind of works both ways.
It's still very Miles focused. It's never to the point where, oh, you forgot that Miles is the main character. Everyone gets their time to shine, not at the expense of the story or the characters.
Yeah.
But I do really like the Doc Ock reveal. I've not. I think I audibly gasped. Well, because I never guessed I was like, okay, she's got octagons on her glasses and stuff. There's hints at it, stuff like very
Yeah.
subtly. But even then, I was like, I don't know what this is. And then she was like, oh, I'm Dr. Olivia Octavius. It blew my freaking mind.
It was a good reveal. It really was.
Miles figures out how he his powers. You know a lot more about Miles than I do. What are the extent of his powers? What have we seen already, and what are we yet to see?
So obviously, yeah, he was trying to figure out his powers, you know, walking on the walls kind of thing.
Mm.
Obviously trying to swing. Obviously he doesn't produce his webs like Toby Spider-Man does, so he obviously has to get web fluid. But then he can turn invisible. And it's, in that movie it was kind of learning how he could control that. And now we start to see he has Venom Strike, which is where he uses electricity, his powers, kind of sources it from other places, and he can Venom Strike people, and he can build up his power to just strike people, and it's really good. I think the invisibility and the Venom Strike is definitely more that I think is to develop. I know in Across the Spider-Verse, he's starting to develop his Venom Strike. He's starting to learn how to use his powers more, but he can use them a lot better than what he's doing at the moment. So we have a lot to see from him on how he can develop that.
Because again, like the video game sort of leans into it a little bit, but that's again, the film is just the film and the video game is that's it for me. I've not really delved deep, and that reflects badly on me. But we do get Peter taking him to May's house, and this is the Peter Parker from the start of the film who's ceased to be Chris Pine.
Yeah.
Chris Pine.
Chris Pine.
What the hell, man? I think he's killing Chris Pine off. In terms of gadgets and stuff, we've got the car, we've got all these different outfits and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Which is your favorite spider suit?
Peter Parker's.
Yeah,
I really like Iron Spider, to be
right.
honest. I do like Toby's Iron Spider one. I can't remember if it was in the whole little display. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I'm looking at all my Funkos right now. I'm trying to think like, oh, which ones are there?
It's very. I think it's very blink and you'll miss it in the film.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've got most of the suits as Funkos, so like I'm just trying to think. It's definitely gotta be Iron Spider. But then I do just love a good classic Spider-Man suit.
I know what you mean. Yeah, less is more sometimes. Although
Yeah.
I am a sucker for the PS4 one, and when that
Yep.
rocked up, I was like, yeah, that's a nice suit. I like that one very much.
Yep. Perfect. Yep. That's always a good suit. That's one that I recently got as my cosplay because I was like, I need that one next.
Yeah, and it's so cool. We do meet some other people, so it's not just these three Spider men and women. We do have some more in the fray. Who else rocks up in this? I think there's three more we've got to meet.
Yeah, so we had Penny Parker, we have Spider Ham, and we have Spider Noir.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Penny Parker. I don't know much about Penny Parker as well. She's a recent Spider-Man, right?
She's got a traumatic backstory. Her backstory is like traumatic. I can't even remember everything that happened, but she lives in a futuristic world, and her dad helped her with her spider mecha suit, I would call it. Yeah, I'd say she's quite a new character, kind of introduced to the Spider-Verse, I would say. I don't know tons about her, but she's definitely an interesting one.
And then there's Nicolas Cage as Spider Noir, which is always a good match.
Yeah.
I did miss him in Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, definitely missed his appearance, but never know what's gonna happen.
Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, me and you know we've got it.
Yeah.
And then Spider Ham. Spider Ham is a pig. Yeah. No, he was a spider who was bitten by a radioactive pig.
Pig.
What?
And yeah, and his world's just crazy. I've read a lot about him, and he's just there for a laugh. Really, it's just kind of more of a comedy part of the Spider-Verse. He's
Yeah.
just a bit of a joke, but I love him. He's great.
He's voiced by John Mulaney, who I'm a big fan of. So when
Yes.
he rocked up, I was like, okay, great. But he's animate. Everyone's animated differently. Miles, when there's an instance where Peter and Miles are learning how to thwip through the trees, and Peter's animated, I think, 24 frames per second.
Yes.
This is the Aragorn broke his toe of the Spider-Verse, right?
Yes.
No, it's animated at 24 frames per second, but Miles is animated at 12.
12.
Yeah,
Yes.
just to, it's not quite there yet. He's not quite Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's when he starts discovering or learning how to use his powers that then he starts becoming 24 frames per second, which I love.
Yeah, that's such a genius move that only animators and those who have looked on IMDb will know.
Yeah.
But in terms of the other people as well, the Spider was very, very dark. It was like a black and white movie, basically.
Yeah.
Spider Ham is basically a Looney Tune, which, of course, I'm going to like. And Penny Parker is manga influenced or anime.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't clash, I don't think, these styles.
No.
I think there could always be someone goes, there was too much going off. But I don't think they clash at all.
No. I think they've done that really well to animate everyone in such a different style. And you see that in Across the Spider-Verse of the different styles that these Spider-Men are in.
Mm-hmm.
But it works so well with their characters that I think that it doesn't clash as a visual.
There's a very good fight scene where everyone's involved in Aunt May's house, where
Yeah.
let's call them the Sinister Six.
Yeah.
Rock up, and every Spider-Man has a villain to face off against. It's very spectacular to look at, but it does lead us to a very important turning point in the film, which is Miles's relationship with his uncle.
Yeah, I think so. I know that there's a bit of a strain between him and his dad. His dad is Miles and his dad. Dad wants the best for him, but there's a bit of pressure on him to be the best.
Mm-hmm.
As I think, well, Aaron Davis is Uncle Aaron. He's very relaxed. He's kind of on the shadier side of things, and he does a lot of crime in his life to get where he is. But Miles looks up to him as a father figure, and he's got a really good relationship with him. And it was definitely very hard and hit hard when he discovered he was the Prowler. Just one of those things that happens to a Spider-Man, I guess.
Everyone's got a canon event, right?
Canon event.
Yeah. Again, we know.
We know.
Yeah. Meanwhile, throughout like all the rest of this film, the Kingpin's got like an agenda. He's got a backstory as well.
Yes, as we all know, Kingpin. Well, in this one, I think it's his wife Vanessa, and it looked like he had a son called Richard. Obviously, yeah. So I don't really know their relationship between, like, Kingpin and Vanessa. I don't know the relationship in this, as I know in the Daredevil series, Vanessa knew that he was a bit of a bad guy. So in this one, I think Kingpin had Spider-Man by the throat, and Vanessa and Richard walked in, and Vanessa was like, "Oh no, like, what are you doing? Can't let our son see this." So she left. They got in a car. As they were driving away, they had a car crash and they both died.
Pretty sad as villain origins go, right?
Yeah, Kingpin always loves Vanessa, but so this one he's so upset by this that he builds this collider to go into another dimension to get his wife and kid back. As you do.
It's all the rage though, because this is very similar to what Wanda does in Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
So like, oh, I can't have these kids, I'll get them from somewhere else. Like, but just make more. It's not a problem.
Just make more.
Just make more. Kids, you can get them from anywhere. So yeah, this is his big thing. And so meanwhile, he's building this collider that A, has caused all this chaos to start off in the first place, but B, just to get Vanessa and his kid back.
Yeah.
So it's building to a big finale. Miles is having a bit of a problem as well, because after discovering that his uncle is the Prowler, the Kingpin takes matters into his own hands.
Yeah. And that's where he kind of, and that even that moment was such a good visual effect of, Kingpin shooting Uncle Aaron. I think the gunshot even frightened me when when it went off, because it's
Mhm.
quite a sudden thing. You kind of expect it, but you don't expect it.
Yeah.
And it's just it hits you hard. So
It's his Uncle Ben moment though,
yes, yeah,
for
it is.
sure. Um, so he's not really got a father figure anymore, Miles. Even though his relationship with his father's quite strained, I want to say.
Yeah.
Not for anyone's fault. It's just that he seems to get on more with his uncle.
Yeah, I think, his dad wants the best for him, and he doesn't want him to turn out like his brother,
Hmm.
Aaron, because he knows that he's a bit shady. So I think he wants the best for Miles. He cares about Miles. We see that. And we know that Miles cares about him too, but I think there's just a bit of yeah, a strain between them to be able to be honest and comfortable with one another.
It's very similar again to the Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs relationship with the father, right?
Yes, I keep seeing those memes everywhere.
Sometimes when you cast your line, I don't understand fishing metaphors. Like it's the best you can do.
Ah.
Trouble at home is what is what is in store for Miles now. But this is his low point. It can only get better from here. Of course,
Yeah,
all these other Spider-Men, Spider Hams, they're looking after him. They want what's best for him because they've been through this. They know what's on the other side. But this is where we get probably the best scene in the film, right? It's the leap of faith.
yeah, because I think one thing about Spider-Man is that he always needs to get up, no matter what. He needs to get up, and we have that scene where the other Spider people are kind of hitting him down, and he doesn't get up, and he kind of goes off, and he's having a bit of a moment to himself, and that's when he kind of realizes, like, oh, I need to get up, I need to pick myself up. And then it's the leap of faith that most of the Spider-Men have done when
Mm-hmm.
they've discovered their Spider-Man. I think it's taken Miles a little bit more time to discover that, and then having one of the best scenes of his leap of faith was everything.
We do have with in terms of Spider-Man, Toby had his when he's got the suit realized and he's swinging through the city and he's swinging around the flagpole and stuff. He's got his. Andrew's got his when it's all first person. Tom, I don't think has got one.
The thing is with Tom's was different when we were introduced to him, because we didn't get another repeat of his backstory of how he got bitten,
And
because
nor
he
should
was
we.
kind of no, we didn't need it. I'm sure he probably went through the same kind of stuff.
Yeah. Whereas here, it's this is Miles's, and this is spectacular. Obviously, you've got the music. Daniel Pemberton did the score, which is out of this world. He should have got nominated for an Oscar for this
Yeah,
for the music.
100%.
And What's Up Danger should have been nominated for the Oscar for Best Original Song,
Also, yes, definitely.
or as I call it, What Is Up Danger? Because what is up, danger? But that's all it is, Miles. Just a leap of faith, and he jumps through. He jumps off the building, and he's falling, but it looks like he's rising. It's there's a bit where he's going like woo on the way down,
Yeah.
or on the way up, instead, which mirrors when he was falling earlier in the film.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just beautifully realized, and it looks good on a desktop wallpaper.
Oh yeah,
I,
definitely.
I imagine that's your desktop wallpaper, right?
One of them. I change them around a bit. So Miles is on it now, but it's a different one.
Oh, okay. So we build into this big battle at Collider. All the Spider-Men have gone later to be joined by Miles, and they've got okay, cool. Miles is with us now. He is Spider-Man. I think that's what he was always building to. He's like he is Spider-Man now. In terms of final battle scenes, it gets a bit out of control. Because the Collider again, it's this big machine, this big like in this warehouse, right?
Yeah, it's massive, like underground kind of thing. I think I can't remember where it is, in the Alk something.
Alchemax,
Yeah, something like
yeah,
that.
which I didn't know what that was, but I'm glad to see it rock up the Alchemax building.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's like universes clashing. There's trains flying through, and there's buildings that aren't there, and just all contained in this one room. That's what I
Yeah.
find. That's what I find odd.
No one else is really paying attention. They've got this whole dining meal going on like above or something because it's like a party for Chris Pine's Peter dying. So
Mhm.
like there's that all going on and no one's actually realizing that literally under them. I think it's under them or near them that this whole thing's going on.
But it's built. It could have bad effects because if this happened, this is the end of their universe. I want to say.
Yeah, it would their reality would die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, what Wilson Fisk is doing is fine. I want to say, but he's doing it for the right reasons, but he's doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, because no matter what, we've discovered this in the next movie, but no matter what you do, you can't do this because it will literally destroy realities. It will just pull your reality apart and you'll lose them again. It's like, what's the point of going through that pain again
Uh-huh.
of losing them when, you know.
We just gotta move on. That's the thing. I really love how every Spider-Man gets their like a fighting style. Obviously, Penny Parker's got the robot, and it's very kung
Yeah.
fu-esque. I love Spider Hams with the mallet and the like
The
blow and
anvil.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. It's just great. But everyone gets the time to shine, and it's a credit to everyone involved that it doesn't get confusing
Yeah.
because this could have got very confusing.
Yeah, it could have been very chaotic, very busy, but I think they did it very well. They focused on them quite well. And even when they did kind of do a focus on all of them, it was structured very well to be able to not be overwhelmed by how much is going on.
Mhm. But there seems to be a focus of the six Spider-Men, but there's only the three that really are the important ones. There's Miles, there's Peter, and there's Gwen. Gwen's great in this. I love Gwen's suit with the ballet shoes.
Yeah.
I do miss them, the ballet
Yeah,
shoes.
I miss them as well. I mean, her new shoes are pretty cool, but nothing beats those ballet shoes.
The only problem with the ballet shoes is that her Funko would never stand up properly.
Yeah, no, I don't bother to get her out. But
Oh, do
yeah,
you keep her in the box?
I keep all of them in the box. I know you'll probably see a few. I don't have any room to be able to put them all out, but I've taken a photo with her out of the box,
Uh-huh.
and that was a struggle just to do that. I think it took 10 minutes just to make sure she could stand up.
Everything seems to be wrapping up now with the collider. There's a way to stop it. I can't exactly remember how they stop it from happening. I think they just
So Peter Parker at the start had what they call a goober.
a goober. Yeah.
Yeah, and Miles broke it. So then that's when they had to go and break in, and that's where Miles threw a bagel. And
The bagel. Okay.
the bagel, and they had to obviously get the thing off the PC to make a new goober, and they needed to then put this goober into one of the panels on the Collider. There was just one random panel that it put it in, and it all stops. And that was the whole other thing, is that who were they gonna, who was gonna sacrifice their life to get everyone home? Because Miles at that point wasn't able to get back up.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're kind of fighting of like, oh, I will do it. And so it's just kind of nice to then see Miles swing in and know that he may actually be able to save all of them and he doesn't have to sacrifice anyone. So it's great that, quite funny how it's just like a little memory stick basically that you've got to just plug into the ceiling. But
And it saves the day, yeah.
there you go.
This isn't without a showdown with Fisk though, because Fisk is this beast, is this mammoth of a muscle and just strength, right?
Yeah.
And he's just beating Miles down like punch after punch. And we've seen it.
Mhm.
We've seen that Kingpin can kill a Spider-Man. So this fight, it's not without baggage. So
No, yeah.
we know that Miles is in very deep trouble here.
Yeah. And the fight seems very good with that. And he's holding off Kingpin like pretty well, I'd say. then there is a moment where he really does get beat down. And then we're like, oh my God, like I think all of us are like at our screens being like, get up, Miles, get up. And then what's so nice is that his dad was there because obviously he's a copper. So
Yeah.
he's there. And then you hear him in the background being like, get up, Spider-Man. And I think that's like a really, all of us, I think, not just the dad. And obviously that's quite a big thing because his dad doesn't like Spider-Man. It's encouraging for Miles to hear, but I think all of us are kind of screaming at him to be like, get up. So that moment is very special, I'd say.
That's the turn. That's what Miles needs. He is Spider-Man, but he needs to have that belief behind him, and he gets it. He gets it. He gets it good. And then everyone must get sent home, so everyone says their goodbyes. Spider-Ham does a "That's all, folks,"
Yep.
which is probably my favorite line in the film. Is,
Yep. I
is
love
he
it.
is he allowed to say that legally? Everyone's leaves a different person than when they started the film. Obviously, we see this mirrored in the start of, well, not even start, throughout across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Because Peter's a changed man.
Yep.
Gwen's obviously got some sort of connection to Miles and his world as well.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's better for it for the experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then one thing I kind of question, but not question, but I get it, is Spider-Man is always seen to be, even though he could do this, I'm talking to a complete Toby fan.
Yeah.
Spider-Man does all this good, but he's always trashed in the news and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I feel like Miles is missing that because everyone loves him.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think now because I'm trying to think of obviously the next movie. There were some things about him in the news and him having to make apology videos, kind of.
For baby powder or something.
Yeah, like kind of laughing at the modern world of having to make apology videos on YouTube and stuff like that. I think, yeah, I don't know. You don't really, but then it seems like Peter Parker was loved. That the Spider-Man died, and that was sad to see. Like everyone was so upset by that. So I wonder if Spider-Man in their world is actually more loved than maybe the other Spider-Man being absolutely hated on.
He does, obviously he has to hide his identity from his dad, but he has some sort of connection with his dad as a cop, and him being Spider-Man put that deepens his voice. Thank you for your help.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that in a Spider-Man. I like that he has to hide it from everyone.
Yeah, it's nice. For Miles, I think it's nice that he had the other Spider people to know his identity.
Yeah.
But I think hiding your identity from your daily life is definitely a key part of Spider-Man. And obviously we see that unwind when Tom Spider-Man obviously gets revealed that he's Peter Parker, but it shows that then he goes back to no one knows who Spider-Man is, and I know no one knows who Peter Parker is, but like I think that's the whole part of it's nice that Miles has kept that away from his parents and stuff. And there's a big sacrifice if he was to tell him or the parents, about his identity of Spider-Man. So
we do end with I'm going to do this one more time, which I like that this film does that for every Spider-Man, and the new one as well. It's sort of episodic, so it plays out like a comic book as well.
Yeah,
with like the front covers, and you could split this up into chapters of like 20-minute YouTube shorts if you needed to.
Yeah.
But Into the Spider-Verse, it won Best Animated Feature when it got nominated for the Oscar.
I'm so happy. I think they need something for this next film. I think they spent 100 million on this film. They've had over 1,000 animators on it. They've gone above and beyond, for the first film, but especially for the second film. That I think they need that recognition again. And I'm glad that they won for the best. Would you say the best animated?
Best animated, yeah. I don't think it was up against anything big. I think it was probably up against like Frozen 2, potentially, I want to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Typical with stuff we've seen before.
I think this is just, it was new. Yeah. When have we ever seen an animated film like this that a lot of people think it's childish having animated films, but when have we ever seen something so amazing like this that they deserve it?
Yeah.
So
Well, it's the way forward now. Obviously, because we've had the new one, which is smashing the box office. It's really doing well. But I just want to like ask you where you think this style falls. Um, in terms of duplications, Puss in Boots, the latest, seemed to take a lot from the animation style of the Spider-Verse ones. Do you think we're going to get a lot of people trying to replicate this, or do you think it's going to be like, okay, everyone's doing it, it's going to get boring?
that's the thing. I think because Into the Spider-Verse is so unique, not many people doing it, that I think more film and companies are going to try and do it. But it
Mm-hmm.
depends on how well they do it and how often they do it. If you're going to do it badly, then it's not going to work for them. But you don't want to, you don't want companies and, filmmakers to keep doing it in that style because then it takes it away from it. I think Sony Animations have done it so well. Like, I don't know how anyone would be able to top that except
Yeah,
from themselves.
yeah. Put respect to Puss in Boots for trying, and
Yeah.
it gets love because only because it's a cat, right?
Is this the new one?
Yeah, new Puss in Boots. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
It's excellent.
Okay, well, I'll put that on my list then.
It's not as good as this. It never will be. But you can see that they're ripping it off, but it's not as bad because it's still a good film.
Yeah, I mean, there's one animator. I don't know who they are. Can't remember, but I don't know if you've seen Love, Death,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Robots.
Yeah.
And there's an episode called The Witness. Now, one of the animators from Spider-Verse animated this, and you can see a similar style of Spider-Verse, but it's not exactly the same. And that's what's good about it, is that because you don't want a company or people to copy the exact same, because then it just takes it away from the film. But
Mhm.
this one animator did a episode for Love, Death and Robots, and it worked well because it wasn't the same, but you could tell that it was an animator from the film.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think if
Um,
it's done like that, perfect. Like, it's still good because it's an animator from the film, but you don't want it to be exactly the same.
I do want to talk about just a little thing from the new one. So, spoiler alert, everyone. With these sort of universes merging, obviously it was only a matter of time before we'd see live action in there.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, and there's talks of a live action Miles Morales story as well, but there has been for a while. Do you think stick to cartoons, or do you think it should dip its toe in live action?
It's hard. I think when it comes to Miles, I always want to see him in animated. I think that he suits animated style. But then if they're wanting to include him in the MCU, if they're wanting to include him with the other Spider people that are live action, then that's when it gets difficult. But then I want to know how they're going to be able to transition the animated into the live action. How are they going to continue his story and not make a whole new live action just for Miles? I
Mm-hmm.
think, I don't want them to make a live action of Miles to repeat this whole story.
Yeah.
Or if they want to continue it on, then that's fine. But it's how you're going to make it. How is he going to be live action? Or are they going to keep him animated and just bring him into the live action world? And we've seen that in Across the Spider-Verse where they've brought live action into, and
Mm-hmm.
it kind of worked. In one of the scenes, spoiler alert again, but when the Spot goes into the Venom world
Right.
and sees
Yeah.
his, it's like it works so well. But then I'm like, oh my God, but we're in an animated film right now. Like, it worked because it wasn't too, I don't know. I just forgot that we were in an animated world for a moment. But yeah, it worked adding in the live action aspects to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a bit mixed opinion about it because I'm like, I always see Miles as an animated character. He works well as an animated, in an animated movie.
Mm.
But it would also, there's so many people, I watch movies and I'm like, he would be good as Miles or he would be good as Uncle Aaron. So I'm like, oh, I don't know.
I don't think with the other Spider-Man, there's not been that much baggage in terms of because we used to seeing Spider-Man rebooted. They reboot it every 5 minutes, but I think the last time we had someone being, oh, we don't know who to cast and there's a bit of baggage to it, was Tom. If they were to do a live action Miles now, they've got the whole, okay, it has to be as good as the Into Spider-Verse films, which I think will, this one, the new one is going to sweep the Oscars as well. But
Yeah.
then there's the baggage of who do you cast? Who can do it that well? And this is why I think they should completely separate it.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do Miles, keep like you can have your own continuity. We don't need to see him be bitten by a spider. It can just be a Miles who's already gone through some stuff, and we can just connect with him that way. But there's always going to be the baggage of, oh, it's a Miles film that isn't as good as Spider Verse. I think they're damned if they do, damned if they don't.
Yeah, I think, and also the cast, like we've said before, I think that I can't imagine another cast that
Mm-hmm.
isn't, I can't imagine Shamik Moore not playing Miles. He plays
Yeah,
such a good Miles that I would be like, well, I want him to be the live action Miles. Same with Haley. Okay, she looks different to how Gwen looks. She don't have short blonde hair and all of this stuff, and she's not a child. But same with Peter B. Parker. I can't not see. Oh my God, I keep forgetting his name. Jake
Jake
Johnson.
Johnson. Yeah,
Yeah, I keep
I
on saying
think
Nick.
they should still give it to Jake Johnson.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I just can't imagine someone else playing those characters. So it would be hard to see a live action of Miles because I'd be like, but that's not Shamik.
Yeah.
And I see videos of Shamik and I feel like he's like Miles. I mean, I'm gonna meet him in October and I
Yeah.
can't wait.
Oh my God.
And I feel like I'm just gonna be like, you're Miles,
Uh-huh.
you're not Shamik, you're Miles. So I think it's just if I saw anyone else play Miles, I don't know how I'd feel.
The real question is though, is Into the Spider-Verse better than Space Jam?
100% yeah.
There's a lot. Oh God, yeah. This is the thing. This is a problem because so far I've not had anything that's not as good as Space Jam. So I've got to pick stuff that's going to be like absolute trash. But yeah, this is nowhere near as good as Space Jam.
I'm afraid, well, not afraid, but afraid not. I'm very biased because I know that Into Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, my favorite films of all time now. But yeah, no, I think definitely better than Space Jam, and just so many different aspects of it, though. Visuals, animation, characters, Easter eggs, so many Easter eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, in my recent episode, I talked about Easter eggs that were in the first movie that links to the second movie and how that's kind of there's so much in this movie that I there's a lot of things that can't top that.
Are you? Well, obviously you are, but are you looking forward to the new one? Are you wanting
Oh
to?
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, give it to me now. Why do I have to wait? Well, they say it's going to come out next year in March, hoping Marvel and Sony don't delay that. Never know at this point, but I'm like, give it to me now.
People have said this new one is they're comparing it to Star Wars. But people have said the first one is New Hope. This is the animated version of Empire Strikes Back, where it's like a cliffhanger.
Yeah,
And I get it. I completely get it. But I am worried about this next one because again, how do you top it?
how do you top it? That is the thing. It's Across the Spider-Verse. I feel not. That's the thing. Nothing can beat Into the Spider-Verse, but Across the Spider-Verse really went beyond a little bit more. But I think that's because it's carrying on the story. Now we're left at this cliffhanger, and now this is going to be the end of the trilogy. So it's like, well, what's it going to do to literally leave it at an end, but be so good that we're like blown away by it? So I'm like, I don't know. I'm of course very excited, but
I think it's in good hands. I think we're okay.
yeah, I think if they do what they've done with this one, definitely going to be okay.
Yeah. Ella, it's been lovely having you on this podcast.
Well, it's been an honor being on here. I'm so happy being able to come on and talk about
This is
Spider-Man.
the crossover we've been waiting for.
Yes.
um,
and soon we'll decide what we want to do. If you want to come onto my podcast at all, we'll have a good topic to speak about.
awesome. I'd love to come on.
Perfect.
Thank you very much again. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you as well.
I can't remember what the next episode was. Oh, Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. So there's a Nicolas Cage connection, sort of. We love to see
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Thank you again, Ella. Thank you for listening. And yeah, see you next episode.
Bye.